Hello there, welcome to my channel, EH for Truth. Okay, so I want to talk about don't let your tongue fall out of your mouth. You know, there's been a lot of tongue wagging about, Ripple, XRP, and how, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to, I ask myself if people don't even learn. People learn one thing and they hold on to it so tightly that they're not even ready to consider that anything else is possible. Now, let me give you an example. So you got people who have made money off Bitcoin. They hold on to their theology, not theology, their ideology about Bitcoin. And there's no doubt about it. Here's the interesting thing. For someone like me, who's not a Bitcoin maxi, I believe that in Bitcoin, I believe in Bitcoin. I've said it. If I make some good money, I'm going to invest in Bitcoin. Do I have Bitcoin? Yes, a little bit, not that much. Why? Because when you talk of it would have made sense for me to invest in Bitcoin when it was $100 or $1,000. I knew Bitcoin, but I didn't care, and I regret it, but I don't regret it. Does that make sense? Because there's always an opportunity every day in the marketplace. All right, some doors will close, but others will open, and you have to keep your eyes peeled. But there are people who seem to have just gotten stuck to one idea. Not just Bitcoin. There are people who are maxis on certain projects. There's people who talk to me and it's all about DAG. Oh, you should take a look at DAG. You have no idea where it's going. You see, somebody sold you on something which may be true, but you need to understand that it's not the only one. I always use the automobile industry as an example. There is a guy who is a car dealer. This guy was known for so many different kinds of cars, but he was not selling like would I say a Ford or anything like that, right? You had a dealership who is just Ford. You have the dealership that was doing just one particular kind of vehicle, like GMs, right? And they are known. Generations of families have purchased from this particular dealership. And then one day, a certain car brand came into the world, and it was called Kia or Hyundai from South Korea. And they began to gain popularity outside their own country of South Korea. And today in North America, and even here in Nigeria, in Africa, Hyundai and Kia are growing in increasing popularity. Why? Because history rhymes, and sometimes history kind of replays itself. There was a time when Nissan, I did a video where I talked about that, and some people are still saying, oh, you know what, this is not going to happen, this is not going to happen. It can't be just one. One thing I like about Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, he says something. He says, look, we're not going to be the only ones. I love that about this guy, that he makes it very clear. Why do people think that in this world there can be only one book? When I was writing my book, if you are new to crypto and you are wondering about, getting ahead, learning, you know what? Download my book. It's in the description. It's $18.99. It will change your life. It will give you what you need to start your journey of investing in crypto. All right, back to what I was talking about. People hold on. They hold on to something. It's like, oh, this is the only way. This is how it's got to be. No, you have to be open to ideas to understand there can never be just one way of doing things. I have a bias when it comes to the faith. I say Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. That I'm not going to change or argue, and that has to do with spiritual things. And it's non-negotiable as far as I'm concerned. Now, there are so many other ways people believe, but I know that only one man said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but by me. But when it comes to scientific things, when it comes to, building types, I used to live in an area where all the houses looked the same, right? It was like nobody was designing anything else. Everybody was copying the house that was built next door and all of that. And now I live in an area where, in fact, it's interesting that none of the houses, like I don't live in Nigeria, I'm just here for a brief while, I live in Canada. But all of the houses where I now live, I've lived there for 16 years, none of them are actually holding the same design. They are individual, they're all custom built. It's interesting that would happen. That, of course, it costs more to be custom built, but they are there. And that's the reality about life. My friends, listen to me. This is going to shock a lot of people. And what was the title of my video? It has to do about people's tongue falling out of their mouth. When I talk to people naturally, in conversations, I say, it will so shock you that your tongue will almost fall out of your mouth. Why am I saying this? There are people who have spoken in one direction and they even refuse to believe. Sometimes I even ask myself, are people paid to be this obtuse or to be this, blind about the fact that there can be many options to something? So I want to tell you here, my friends, that Ripple is not going to be the only one. Surprise, surprise. I was sharing with you guys about a crypto asset that is with less than a cent, right? I'm putting together a PDF that I'm going to share to people for free, just so that those who are not sure of which way to go about it will have information, because I want as many people to get this opportunity. The other day I was checking a particular crypto asset. It's a meme coin, but it's not going to stay a meme coin, just like Shiba. It's called WikiCat. The developer is a Nigerian called Samapi. I've never met him, I don't know him, but I know that thing is going somewhere. I personally am not a holder of it. You see, I don't just hold any cryptocurrency just like that. I have to be led to do it. But I've been telling people, that cryptocurrency is going to go somewhere, is going to explode. People are going to be shocked. But it is not the only one. We know in part and we prophesy in part. Right now, do you know that if you go on to what's it called, the scanner, I think Ether scanner or something like that, you would find that this crypto has 65,000 holders. If you scan XPR, there are 23,000 holders of this cryptocurrency. Guess how many people hold Bitcoin? They say between 60 and 120 million. They're not even sure. And about 60 million have less than about $100 on their wallet of Bitcoin. Then the others have above $100 and on and on and on and on. It's a tiny minority that hold a lot of money in Bitcoin, which tells you that people were convinced that, if you buy Bitcoin, it's going to increase. See, let me give you an example. Just look at what has happened recently with the price of Ripple. Just today Ripple was at $2.48, okay? XRP, $2.48. Bitcoin moved from 102,000 to 104,000. I did the math. Bitcoin gained 2.9%, right? On top of its previous price, it's low for the day, for the 24-hour period in consideration, while XRP did 5-point-something%, maybe about 5.6% or something of the sort. Now tell me, if you had put $10,000 in and said, okay, let me see what will happen, and you thought in all your calculations and everything, your graph, your charts you're watching, 5% of 10,000 would have been about $500, right? And you can pull out depending on what your cost for going in and out is, depending on what platform you're using. There are people who are paying next to nothing depending on what you are using. I can't go into all that detail right now. Like, I'm not a trader, day trader. No, I don't do all that stuff. I believe in swing trading, and that's something that I think people should be looking at, because most of us are busy, we're working, we're doing all of that. But I'm telling you, people's tongues are going to fall out of their mouths, and I'm not saying literally, it's just my way of saying people are going to be aghast, like, you see, like when I did that, like it looked like my tongue was actually literally coming out of my mouth. So when we say this, people who have said one thing will be caught halfway, not being able to finish their sentence this time around, because when XRP decides, and the decision is, I wouldn't even say it's a question of decision because it's inanimate. It has to do with all of the things that are happening around it. When the time comes for it, which is very, very near, XRP is going to do numbers that people have not seen. Now, there is talk of a crypto crash. There is talk of the market completely going to zero and all of that. That doesn't bother me. It'll happen. You set your limit orders for when Bitcoin crashes or Ethereum and all of that, and just get ready. Just get ready. I'm not selling my bags. I'm putting my money into stable coins just because of the crash. I've always advocated in my book. If you download my book, thank you for all those who have purchased my book, by the way. I'm so proud of you. I've put together a video to advertise it some more on social media. But anyway, what was I trying to say? Like, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, you know what? Set your limit orders if things go sideways or they go down, you know what? You catch them on their way up, on their way down. It doesn't matter. Just be ready. In my book, I advocate the three bag strategy, where you don't sell everything, but there's a certain bag that you use for swing trades or day trades or whatever it is you want to do. So if you have 1,000 units of your certain crypto asset and you're not staking it or anything like that, you can divide it into 3 or 4, and you know, according to how you feel led, and then you can trade some and you can keep some. So yeah, that's the way I look at it. I hope and I hope and I hope and I hope that you will benefit, and that you will not be one of those whose tongue will drop out of their mouth. Now that's not literal, it's just that you will go and your tongue will be like on its way, and then you catch it before it falls out of your mouth because of what's going to happen. Don't be so negative about an asset. Do your research, study, actually ask questions. You know, somebody wrote on my on a comment about 2 weeks ago, on my comment on a video I did, and he said, he or she, whatever, he said, XRP is a scam coin, is a SHIT coin. And I checked the history of this person's comments, and they're just negative. So I said, you know, I'm going to play a game. I've done my research, right? So I just went on to Grok, and I said to Grok, tell me, is XRP a scam? And the first thing Grok says, no. Of course I know it's not a scam. I just wanted to kind of play with it and see. And then he gave me all the reasons that made sense. Searching through 15 websites was able to give me such solid reasoning. Well, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. I'll see you in the next one.